Now to an I-24 News investigation about the very real possibility that within our lifetimes, the Dead Sea will be gone forever. Why is it happening, and is it too late to stop?
There's something happening deep in the heart of the Middle East. Something quiet, mysterious, and completely unexplainable. The Dead Sea, one of the saltiest and most lifeless bodies of water on earth, is showing signs of life. And not metaphorically. I'm talking about real physical life. Freshwater springs, green vegetation, and even fish appearing in places where, until recently, nothing could survive. This isn't science fiction. This isn't some poetic metaphor. This is real, and it's unfolding now. But before we go any further, I want to invite you to subscribe to our channel. Your support helps us continue bringing powerful, eye-opening content that digs into prophecy, biblical truth, and the mysteries shaping our time. So hit that subscribe button and let's explore this together. A place known for death, the Dead Sea, is no stranger to those with an eye on ancient history or biblical geography. For centuries, people have traveled to its shores to experience its healing properties, float effortlessly in its salty waters, and witness one of the most unique places on the planet. But the name is no exaggeration. The salt content of the Dead Sea is so extreme that it chokes out almost all forms of life. No fish, no plants, just silence. A still, eerie beauty, lifeless, desolate, and dry. For decades now, this already inhospitable region has been shrinking at a rapid pace. The Jordan River, once the lifeblood of the Dead Sea, has been redirected and diminished. Industrial mining, climate change, and human development have all contributed to a devastating decline. As the waters receded, the land began to tear open. Sinkholes, some small, others large enough to swallow entire buildings, began appearing overnight. Resorts were abandoned. Trees withered. Tourists stopped coming. It looked like the Dead Sea was not just dying, but disappearing altogether. But then something changed. In the midst of this slow-motion environmental disaster, something strange began to happen. Within some of the sinkholes, these hollowed-out wounds left behind by the sea's retreat, fresh water started to collect. At first, scientists believed it was runoff or rain, temporary, fleeting, but the water remained. And then something even more unbelievable appeared in those pools. Fish! Yes, living, breathing, swimming fish in a place that had, for millennia, been too salty to support any such life. And not just fish, reeds, plants, even tiny organisms. Life where there should be none. To many observers, this was a scientific anomaly, an unexplained quirk of geology and hydrology. But to others, those familiar with the words of an ancient prophet, this was something far more. Ezekiel's vision of life in the salt sea, thousands of years ago, the prophet Ezekiel described a vision. He saw water flowing from beneath the threshold of a temple in Jerusalem. This water, as it moved eastward, grew deeper and more powerful. Eventually, it reached the Salt Sea. The same body of water we now call the Dead Sea. And what Ezekiel wrote next is stunning. When the water flows into the sea, the salty water becomes fresh. Wherever the river flows, life will flourish. There will be large numbers of fish because this water flows there and makes the salt water fresh. So where the river flows, everything will live. Ezekiel 47:8-9. For centuries, scholars and believers interpreted this vision symbolically. A beautiful picture of spiritual renewal, a metaphor for healing. But now, something is happening in real life that resembles that prophecy. water flowing into dry, broken places, fish appearing in waters once considered dead, nature rebounding where it had been lifeless. What if Ezekiel wasn't just speaking poetically? What if he saw something real, something timed not for his generation, but for ours? More than just a miracle. Some scientists believe these freshwater pools may be fed by underground springs or deep aquifers. Perhaps tectonic shifts beneath the surface open new channels for water to emerge. But no matter how they explain it, one truth remains. This wasn't supposed to happen. No logical model predicted this. No man-made intervention caused it. In a region that symbolizes judgment, finality, and loss, life is returning. And it's not just a curious case for geologists. It's a wake-up call for anyone watching the signs. Because this event isn't isolated. It's echoing themes and prophecies across Scripture. Zechariah's living waters. Ezekiel wasn't the only prophet to speak of water flowing in impossible places. Centuries after him, Zechariah also wrote of a day when living waters would flow out from Jerusalem, some heading east toward the Dead Sea, and others west toward the Mediterranean. On that day living waters shall flow out from Jerusalem, and the Lord will be king over all the earth. Zechariah 14:8-9. Again, water as a symbol, but also water as transformation, as restoration. The prophets saw more than political shifts or symbolic metaphors. They saw the earth itself responding to the presence of God, landscapes changing, rivers flowing, dead places coming alive. That's not just poetry. That's power. Back to Eden, forward to redemption. To understand the weight of this moment, we have to go all the way back to the first time this land was described in Scripture. In Genesis 13:10, the valley surrounding the Jordan River was compared to the Garden of Eden. It was lush, fertile, full of promise. But not far from that lush valley stood Sodom and Gomorrah, cities that chose rebellion over righteousness. And when judgment came, the land changed. Fire fell. What was once Eden became a wasteland. From that moment forward, the region carried a heavy legacy, a place of judgment, of finality, of lifelessness. And yet even then the story wasn't over, because the God of the Bible isn't just the God of judgment. He's the God of redemption. He takes what's broken and makes it whole again. He brings beauty from ashes, life from death. And if the Dead Sea was once Eden and then became a symbol of judgment, then maybe, just maybe, it is now becoming a symbol of restoration. The land and the heart. As believers, we must ask, is this only about geography, or is something deeper happening? Right before Ezekiel's vision of the waters, he records another promise from God. I will sprinkle clean water on you, and you will be clean. I will give you a new heart and put a new spirit in you. Ezekiel 36:25-26. This isn't just about changing the land, it's about changing lives. It's about spiritual renewal, transformation from the inside out. First, the land blooms, then the soul awakens. We've already witnessed Israel's return to the land, a nation reborn in 1948 after centuries of exile, Hebrew revived, cities rebuilt, the desert made to bloom. Now, perhaps we're witnessing the next phase, the spiritual awakening. History has already proven the prophets right. If all of this seems too incredible, remember, we've seen this before. In Ezekiel 26, the prophet predicted the destruction of the ancient city of Tyre. He described its fall in stunning detail, how the city's stones, timber, and even soil would be thrown into the sea. Skeptics called it poetic exaggeration. But centuries later, Alexander the Great attacked Tyre. The city had moved to an offshore island, thinking it was safe. But Alexander demolished the mainland ruins and used the stones, timber, and earth to build a causeway across the water, exactly as Ezekiel had written. That causeway still exists today. If prophecy was fulfilled at precisely then, why should we doubt that it could happen again? The story is still being written. At the end of Ezekiel's prophetic scroll, after the visions of rivers, restored land, and healed hearts, he gives one final name for the city God is building. The name of the city from that time on will be, "The Lord is There." Ezekiel 48:35. That's the ultimate hope, not just water, not just fish or flowers, but presence, God dwelling among His people, tangibly, visibly, eternally. And that vision doesn't end with Ezekiel. It echoes all the way to the final pages of the Bible, where the Apostle John sees a city from heaven, and from the throne of God flows a river, the river of life. Then the angel showed me the river of the water of life, flowing from the throne of God and of the Lamb. Revelation 22:1. From Eden to exile, from death to life, from judgment to redemption. The story is still being written, and we're living in the pages. What does this mean for us today? Maybe the fish in the Dead Sea aren't just a biological mystery. Maybe they're a message, a whisper from heaven that the time is drawing near, that what God has spoken is not forgotten, that His promises still stand, that the dry places in your life, your faith, your heart, your soul, can be made whole again. This is not just a miracle in the land. It's an invitation for every one of us to come back to life, to be renewed, to be ready. Final thoughts. A sign in our time. Whether you're a believer in prophecy or just curious about what's happening in the world today, there's one thing we can all agree on. The Dead Sea should not be alive. And yet it is. And that alone should make us stop, listen, and ask, what is God doing in our time? Thank you for watching. Be sure to subscribe to our channel if you haven't already, and check out the next video where we dive deeper into the signs of the times and what they mean for our world. Until then, keep your heart open, your eyes watching, and remember, Jesus is coming soon.